Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Zoe, the Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, Ranty Flat Earth, Red Pill, Jose, IFTH, Chocolate Saiyan, and Arwin. Wow, absolutely ramma jamma ding dong. Good to have you all.
You missed Zoe, I think.
No, I said Zoe first.
I did say Zoe.
No, I'm here. I'm still here.
Yo.
Zoe.
Hey, Arwen.
Well, let's have the conversation. Start with Chris, Chris and IFTH. Let them two have a back and forth because what they were saying in the interval was really interesting.
All right, I asked Chris to confirm what he'd said about the camera being below the level of the top of the instruction in his video. Chris confirmed that. And that
the obstruction is above the camera's eye level, yes.
Yeah. And so that confirmed for me that what you found in your video is exactly what you would expect to find. I'm not denying perspective, and I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a bulge if that's the terminology that everybody wants to use. I'm perfectly happy with that. You
Plain truth, I think
know that I believe it's a ball, not a flat plane, but it doesn't matter. But Chris, thank you. That's very, very helpful to me because your demonstration is exactly what I would have expected to see.
Well, let me ask you: does the bulge of the Earth curve is it ever higher than your eye level?
I don't see how it could be.
Or rather, because here's the thing, and I'm trying to figure this out, so I'm going along right with you, but up and down are sort of relative terms on a gravity-based ball. I mean,
down is always towards the center of the Earth, yeah.
Right. So I think the question isn't, is it up or down? The question is more, is the bulge higher than your eye level in relation to the target? I think that's the question. And can that big bulge ever be higher than your eye level in relation to the target? I don't know. It just seems like it to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it depends. If you're,
It depends.
Pardon?
Sorry, this is hilarious, man.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad you're amused.
How can the ball beneath your feet ever be higher than your eye level?
Guys. I can sense it. Hold on. I can sense that you all want to tear chunks out of this guy, one at a time.
No. I have a question.
Well, I want to answer the question you asked.
Let me ask you the question first that was in the in between chat. When you look out straight ahead of you into the distance, what is it that you see in the far distance? What would you call it? What would you describe it as? Whether or not you have to lower your eyes a bit or raise your eyes a bit, when your eyes meet that point in that distance, what is it that you're looking at?
Am I looking out over a flat sea?
Anything.
Nothing.
Yeah, you're on the beach.
Over the ocean, say, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, you're on the beach and you're looking out into the distance.
Okay. I would call the point at which the sky meets the ocean the horizon.
Right, so you call the apparent horizon the horizon. Good for you.
Well, if I can, okay, I'll allow apparent. I don't mind. So is that your question?
I think what he's asking you to do is like describe it, like
How do you mean?
describe what you see.
my question is a little bit. We can't go back into the in between time to discuss, but you were challenging that distant observation as being at your eye level, like looking straight out. And
Yeah.
we're discussing as to whether or not you have to drop your head at all or not.
Yeah. No, you don't, because your eyes don't work like that.
Okay, so is that point where you see the horizon that you just called the horizon, is that the curve? Is that the bulge? Is that the dip?
I'm sorry, I want to be, if I may be really picky, I don't have an issue with calling it the bulge, but that point out there that I'm calling the horizon on a globe is below my feet, right? The bulge is a result on a globe of us trying to look through the earth, if you like. We're trying to look along the chord rather than around the circumference. Yeah?
All right, so let me ask a clarification then. You said that the horizon is below your feet.
Yeah. On
Okay.
a globe, obviously not on a plane.
Okay, so then at some point it has to start dipping away from you in order to be below you.
Yeah, right in front of you.
Okay, so then that means that there's a point between you and the horizon that is the actual point of dip. So now you're seeing something below, above the dip.
No, I don't understand you. I'm sorry.
Right,
Anybody
if you're
else
looking
help
down
me?
can I try and explain it? If you're looking down a hill, so you're on the top of a hill, you're at the very, very
Okay.
top peak, and you look down the hill, yeah? As you look
Yes.
down, you don't need to nod along. As you look down the hill, if there is a wall below your feet that is below you, but obscures something even lower, then the wall is still an obstruction between you and the thing you are trying to look at. It must be obstructing, otherwise you wouldn't have a hidden value. It's only hidden because something's in the way. That would be the bulge.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against that.
Right, so there's a wall between you and the target called a bulge. Thank you for that concession.
It's not a concession. It's on a globe. That's exactly what we're talking about. But
Yes, we're talking about a wall between you and the target that obscures your vision. It gets in the way. It causes an obstruction. It's a wall.
And then not only that, but now you then have a point at which something else then rises back up. So you've got an oscillation. You've got a straight line to the point of, and then after that, something comes back up farther out. You've got oscillating landscape. You've got an oscillating ocean line.
Oscillating? No, it's just a hill. There is a consistent curve-based hill between you and the target, whatever target you're looking at.
Absolutely, depending on how far away it is. But yeah.
No, not depending on how far away it is. Always.
Yeah, you said
always. It's always. It's calculable. It should be measurable. It should be observable.
Right. So we're back to the assertion that we've been making for quite some time now. There is a wall between you and the target, something physical in the way that should, based on the heliocentric model, obscure your view because it's in the way. It's a wall.
It depends how far away the target is.
Sure, obviously I don't expect the wall of Earth curve to get in my way in a mile, because there'd only be 8 inches of drop according to your bullshit globe model. However, at the distances that Randy takes pictures of, i.e. about 20 miles, I would absolutely unequivocally expect there to be the wall that you claim is between us and the target. Same with the pictures on screen now. So we have 34 miles between us and the land on screen right now. And there is no bulge obscuring our view in the near foreground at a mile. There should
What's that a photograph of?
It's a photograph of the north end of the Isle of Man.
Is it?
Yes.
Taken from where?
Taken from St. Bees.
Taken from St. Bees.
Yeah, let's not dissect this obvious flat earth proof that we have debated for months. with most people having an acute awareness of it, because it's currently under scrutiny by one of your compadres, known as the Rumpus, who claimed he had done a hangout about this very land that we could see from the beach. But yet, he hadn't pre-recorded anything as claimed and still hasn't modelled it based on the heliocentric model, because there is a massive bulge between you and the target, a wall of earth that obscures your view.
Now I've got a sunset.
So what? Doesn't change our point. There's a bulge missing that should be in the way based on your model. It's in the very near foreground, and we have a very large perspective issue. It's a wall, and it's close to you, blocking your view. But it's not there. We don't ever see it. There's no actual bulge. We just see a very long way.
No, how close should it be? You said it's in the near foreground.
Yeah, it's usually a mile away. A mile to 2 miles.
Horizon? The horizon.
What, the horizon?
Yeah.
No.
The horizon on your model is usually about 1 to 2 miles away.
No.
Yes.
What do you mean no?
No.
What do you mean
Yes.
no?
You're wrong.
Pull out
Really?
the curvature calculator.
So let's do it with Ranty. Did you see the first part of the show with Ranty's what Ranty's work?
No, but listen to the cognitive dissonance.
But I never got answers to the questions asked about that.
Hold on. Listen to the cognitive dissonance when we say this is what it is. This is what it is, and he's saying no, it can't be. That can't be real. Yes, it is. The horizon.
No, I'm not saying anything of this sort. All I'm saying is that the horizon is at closer to 3 miles for me, because I'm not 6 foot tall. For me,
no, you're wrong.
Who cares what you are? We're taking actual observations at a foot in elevation. Are you going to deny that the horizon is at 1 mile to 2 miles at a foot in elevation?
At a foot? No, I'm not. I don't know what it is. I've never calculated it. But
We're telling you, and you're saying no, dipshit. Shut your mouth and listen to what we tell you. We're not asking you a damn thing. We're asserting this as fact.
Shut
okay?
up.
We're telling you, not asking you.
No,
we're not
not.
asking for your opinion.
Not.
We're not asking for a confirmation. We don't require you to say no. We know you don't. Learn your model.
It's not about my model, mate.
It is about your model, very specifically about your begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective omitting, curve calculations that are based on a value of R you have no scientific evidence for. It is absolutely about your model, sir. What the hell are you talking about?
You can't be this stupid. Have you muted me?
How dare you? Don't call me stupid and ask whether or not I'm muting you. I'm talking. Shut your mouth and listen. We are telling you. We are not asking you. We don't need you to reply in the negative.
Yeah.
Don't sigh.
Nathan talks, don't talk.
Don't sigh. We're telling you. Do you understand? There's no question here. We are asserting this. Your bullshit model has an obstruction at 1 to 2 miles for the observations we show. There is no bulge. There is no obstruction. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. Don't sigh.
Pretty much.
Come on. He can have some grief. It's very
Give him a
painful to
moment to
discover you're
mourn.
wrong.
You see what's on screen now? Right, what's on screen now is the same observation. That boat is between us and the target and about 100 feet tall.
On the screen.
Try and keep up. It's gone now. You know, it's a fast-paced show.
Okay. You are refusing to listen. You're refusing to answer questions. I asked some perfectly sensible and reasonable questions about Ranty's display earlier on today. You're refusing to give me the answers. All I want to do is verify what you're saying. You either won't or can't give me the information I've asked for. And all you can do, Nathan, is your usual revert to shout, abuse, trigger.
Reminding you of that bulge we're not
Hold on,
seeing,
Owen.
and you
Hold on,
refuse to
Really,
acknowledge.
Owen, shut up. All right.
Oh, really?
You've
Oh,
already-
really?
Anybody
I have to
shut
shut
up.
up.
Let Nathan answer him.
No, Owen, you've
Why
already
don't you
done.
acknowledge what
Clue what you're talking
Nathan was
about.
telling you?
I
Why
beg your
don't
pardon?
you acknowledge, instead of red herring us again with some other subject, why don't you actually acknowledge what he just told you?
Nathan hasn't told me anything.
Yeah, he
Right, I did. I asserted that in your bullshit ball model, we have a horizon that is at a distance of 1 to 2 miles. Your reply to that was no.
You have asserted, Nathan. All right. So the onus is on you now to demonstrate, provide evidence for what you're asserting.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Click on Sleeping Warriors page right now. Displayed for the audience, you will see a horizon value at 1.22 miles. I expect an apology.
I can't see it. What do you want me
Click
to
on
click
Sleeping Warriors. Try to open your ears. Listen to the words that are coming out of my
Nathan,
mouth.
stop being mean.
Shut your
Stop
mouth.
being-
Shut your
No.
mouth and listen. There is a box at the bottom of the Hangout labelled Sleeping Warrior. Oh, he's dropped. What a shock when we have the proof of his nonsense. So he's gone. Yeah? There's me demanding an apology for his assertion that we are wrong in our assertion. And there it is on screen. 1.22 miles to the absolutely angular-sized enormous bulge, which should obscure our view of bloody everything. That's the point he buggers off. Yeah? Good job, mate. You want to claim that it's me being my usual shouty self when you won't concede a damn thing, and when we have you on the ropes, you disappear like a coward. Why don't you send a few children to come and defend your model? That's what seems to be the game plan at the moment. Sell children here.
And after that speech of his, that's really sad.
Yeah, gave a little speech about how he wouldn't listen, how he couldn't get his argument across. After defying us and saying categorically no, we show him on screen with evidence immediately after him asking for it, and he drops. What a coward. You've got a global belief, you've got a religion, and you're a coward.
So I did a small video. I put it on my YouTube. I put an artificial obstruction called bulge in the front of the camera, right in the middle of the lens, just to see the top part of the lens. And I walk away in a straight, long hallway, and guess what? I disappear from the bottom up. Yes, when I do my first step, my feet is slightly under the little obstruction, but still, obstruct me from the bottom up. I don't know what to make out of it. I'm still doing some trial and error, but I'm gonna keep working on it. I got that long hallway that work, and I'm gonna keep doing some more.
What is the
observations.
observer height in relation to the bulge?
I mean, it's me. I put the camera down on the floor, and I put a little piece of cardboard close to the camera, like a foot away from the camera, right in the middle of the lens. And then I just walk away through the end of the hole. And I disappear almost the whole thing. I disappear myself.
All right, so the bulge is at lens height, basically.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Yeah, then it makes sense.
I put the video in the Hangouts, the YouTube link, because I got no way to share in my phone.
Well, that makes sense, because if there is an obstruction exactly at eye height or lens height in this case, then it is already on the converging point, basically. So that should obstruct a whole lot of field of vision at the lower part of sight.
Yeah, it's in the middle of the lens. It's not all the way in the top of the lens. I line up my phone and I put the little piece of cardboard right in the middle of the lens.
Oh, hello, Earth Flattener.
Hi there.
Who's this?
This is Earth Flattener. Hi.
All right. Hello.
Let me try to go back to what my point was. Instead of saying oscillation, he was saying that closer to him, you have the horizon dipping away, but he sees farther. So what I'm trying to say is that between the apparent dip and that horizon, which is farther away, there is a trough, because between, as he looks out and he says he sees the horizon isn't the dip. The dip happens between him and the horizon. But what that means then physically is between the dip and the horizon is a trough. So there's a descent and then there is an elevation. That's what has to happen physically.
Yeah, there's a tangent line. They're drawing a chord. He described it quite eloquently when he first came in. Anyway, yes, looking downhill, if there's a wall on halfway down that slope, you're still looking down, but you've still got an obstruction between you and it. In their world, the wall also has a line of concrete between you and that wall. It doesn't change the fact that you've got a wall obstructing your vision when you're pointing your camera down in their bullshit world. And that's what they're doing. I think it's no coincidence that by doing that, I bet you if we looked into the kind of angles that they're talking about, it would match with perspective also. They all seem to be tying in. Now we've got the key, now we've peeked behind the curtain of the magic trick, you can see how every single cog works. They all slip in line with perspective. Compression that Ranty showed earlier is just another type of effect that perspective causes. Really, really narrow viewing angle causes things to get squashed. And then the stuff that's above it, obviously, because it's taller, you've got a wider viewing angle, so it doesn't get squashed. So you have this disproportionate amount of squashing on things like chimneys or boats that are very tall. But you got to know the key. You got to know how the magic trick works first. And all credit to Anthony. He's the one who's really, really hammered this home and said this is the effect we're seeing. This is perspective. When we spoke to Jaren, he pointed out that the Morgile had highlighted this a year ago, and Jaren had written it off. And it's now coming back up. People are really cementing. This is how the magic trick works. They've taken perspective and just called it curvature, worked out all the intricacies of what it does, and then worked in lots of different values into a calculator. So you just cherry pick whichever matches best, and Bob's your uncle. As long as no one ever realises that they're ignoring perspective, it'll all work out quite nicely. And it does. Pretty close every time. As soon as you factor in perspective, you've got a bulge at 1.5 miles with these 1.5 2 foot observations. You've got a 1 to 2 mile horizon. And the horizon, according to them, that's the thing obscuring your view. That's the bulge. That's what you're seeing. The top peak of the bulge is the horizon. Right? Well, doesn't matter whether you're angling your camera up, down, left and right. You've got a wall between you and your target. And it's massive. And it's in the foreground. Feet and inches values are irrelevant. The angular size of it's huge. It's close to you. So it should block out everything. That's the reality.
Nathan, we need to start ramming home the point that all these bowlers need to start making concessions and apologising for them inaccurately applying the curve calculator, because they've all been doing it orthographically, and we're showing that perspective is absolutely the thing, right?
Yes, they need to make concessions. They've got it wrong. I mean, when Dawn Treader came on and said Sly's made a new calculator, it was really, suddenly it's all convoluted answers, because I'm saying, is it different or the same? If it's the same, it's still wrong. If it's different, then why the hell haven't we got a line of people who've come on my show, poisoned the airwaves, giving people incorrect information? Why aren't they coming on and saying, yes, we've got a new revised calculator that addresses this perspective issue we ignore currently? And unfortunately, yes, I was foolish enough to believe the publishers of these fallacious calculators that beg the question, prove nothing, and omit perspective. So therefore, I've fallen victim to that because I've applied it to actual sizes of targets, not realising that it doesn't account for perspective. And that's something I need to do. I need to factor that into the viewing frame, the frame of reference in my picture, because it isn't comparable to a picture. I just didn't know that. I didn't spot it when I saw it in side elevation. I didn't spot that I can't take a picture of the side of my own head and the camera I'm taking a picture of. That's an impossibility. But ultimately speaking, these people have applied the calculator wrong. It's not fault of the calculator. It's just the way the calculator works. It's an absolute size calculator. Fine. No problem. But you've applied it wrong, ballers. You've got it wrong. You've misled the public. And the retractions are required. Necessary.
Well, I've got a message from Jaren that's just coming live, like literally whilst you were speaking then. Is it okay if I read it? We've got enough time.
Yeah. Got loads of time. We're only about 25 minutes into this show.
So Jaren sent me this message and it reads, quote, got this message from a patron, told him I'd send it to you. Quote, this is the message from the patron. It says, hey, Jaren, was just watching Nathan Oakley's live debate and something just clicked in my head as they were showing footage. Not 100% sure how you get this across in words, but hopefully you'll get the point. Ranty was showing his pictures across 18 miles of water, showing shore to shore from 1 foot elevation. On the globe model, that dictates that the horizon should be around 1.2 miles, which is the point we were talking about a minute ago. I'm assuming that at 18 miles, the camera is on pretty much full zoom to see that far, and I keep hearing Nathan and Ranty and Sleeping Warrior ask, where's the bulge to the ballers? Obviously, there isn't one, but humouring the globe model, am I right in thinking that zooming in on a P900 in essence is making the angular size bigger by technically getting closer to the target? Kind of taking an unzoomed picture from some point on the water if you were on a boat, for instance. So the camera is taking a picture from, say, what you'd see from, say, 3 miles away without any zoom. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely correct. Ranty, can you just queue up while we hear the end of this transcript? Because you've got that boat and the near foreground wall and barrow in the background. And those three things combined, you show that the boat, when it's next to the wall, is a teeny tiny drop. But when you zoom in on it, it becomes a very big target. That's the point we tried to make on the last show. So hopefully Ranty's still in front of his computer and heard what I just said. If not, there'll be a short delay to get that bit of info. But yes, viewer, patron of Jaren, you are absolutely 100% correct. There is a near target, the bulge. And when you zoom in on it, it's going to get big. Like the boat that hopefully Ranty will show us in a few moments. I'll keep talking and filling.
Well, hang on. He pushes that point further. I don't think Ranty's here. He did say before that he was nipping out.
Oh, okay.
No, he says.
Well, let me just say this then before you do. So check out the beginning of this, the last debate, whatever number that is, 314, and have a look at Ranty when he explains the near foreground wall that's about 40 feet or 30 feet. Then the boat, which is about 100 feet with a lifeboat on it that's at about 70, 65 feet, and barrow in the background with 150-foot buildings. And you see, as you get closer to the boat, its effects of obscuring are the same, but it's obviously very big in your field of view. So you can see how much of an effect it has by virtue of zooming in on it. It fills the frame more, just like the bulge should do, but doesn't.
So let me just read that last sentence again. He says, am I right in thinking that zooming in on a P900, in essence, is making the angular size bigger by technically getting closer to the target, i.e. kind of taking an unzoomed picture from some point on the water if you were in a boat, for instance, halfway between you and it? So the camera is taking a picture from, say, what you'd see from, say, 3 miles away with an unzoomed camera. Does that make sense? So in my eyes, the globe's bulge is way behind the camera, technically, if it's still zoomed in.
Absolutely.
So if you're on an unzoomed, so if you are unzoomed and then zoom in fully and see the shore on the other side, it's blatantly obvious there is no water in the way. Is there any way you can pass this on to him? Because he very rarely reads chat and he doesn't have message facility like this. And you're onto mine. So basically what he's saying is the fact that the camera is zoomed in means that unless your camera is going to go up the one side of the bulge, crest over the bulge, and then start coming back over the other side, then there's no way that there's a bulge there because by virtue of the fact that we're zoomed in. In other words, there's no bulge, right?
Right, absolutely correct. There should
Zooming in does not change perspective. It only increases the angular size.
Yeah, but what he's saying is because the camera's not zoomed in, or when the camera is zoomed in, the bulge is technically way behind you because the bulge is only 1.2 miles away. So what he's saying is you've left the bulge behind you by zooming in.
Correct.
Therefore, you can't possibly have a bulge. And he's right.
Exactly. I've been trying to bang this home for about 6 months. There's a wall in the way, right? There's something blocking your view. It's the lighthouse that isn't there. That's why I kept on banging it in the comments, but, you know, I didn't get a great deal of support when I started calling people hologram fantasists. Because in order to have anything there, it must be looming up from behind the curve. Now, we were working on the fact that the absolute values should have the bottom section obscured, therefore the whole thing must be looming. Now we realise that with a very near foreground obstruction of the bulge, the whole thing must be looming by a massive, massive margin if you're ever to consider anything visible, because there's a wall in the way. Exactly right. So I'm really pleased to hear that from that patron. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So about them concessions that are due.
Yeah, perspective is real, globeheads. You perspective-denying idiots. And you've made mistakes as a consequence of your ignorance. You didn't pay attention to how the calculator worked. You didn't realise that it worked in absolute values and orthographically. Now, you do. So we expect concessions. We expect retractions. We expect you to get on your knees so we can laugh at you while you make your retractions.
Well, the funny thing is, of course, now it becomes a paradox for Mick West because now it's blatantly obvious that perspective is being ignored. They are incorrectly applying the orthographic absolute height of things wrongly. Then it means that he's he's got a paradigm shift because he either has to accept that he has to do something or carry on pushing the nonsense. Now, it doesn't matter what he does here because he's fucked. Because if he changes it, then his curve calculator is never going to match any observations, ever. Never going to happen. Or if he puts the disclaimer on that objects in the distance appear to be smaller than they actually are, then yeah, that's the honest thing to do. Whereas is observe, he's still fucked. He's still fucked.
Come on, no more swearing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and
he's
Riley,
screwed.
it's pronounced paradigm.
Yeah, paradigm shift.
Paradigm.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
But yes, there's a near foreground obstruction, and this is like 0.3. So I'll summarize what we're doing at the moment. So there's a kind of 4-step process. When we first approached this, we all realized it was relatively complex and would take some explanation. So it's been broken down between Anthony, myself, Ranty, Arwin. We've discussed this a lot, as you can probably tell. And to get it across to the audience, or you listening right now, there's first the step to establish that the calculator does not include perspective. And there's a big fat check in that box. Thank you very much, Mick West. We've done that. Then you move on to the targets, the actual things that you're accounting for with perspective, getting smaller into the distance. Again, we've got a nice check in that box thanks to Slice Barcane demonstrating for his audience exactly that. Objects get considerably smaller and closer to the horizon as they go into the distance. Check. Done. Step 3, thanks to IMTF or whatever it was called, for conceding. And again, thanks to Flat Earth Math for conceding. We see no bulge. Thanks to John for the super chat. Much obliged. So there is no bulge. We can now check that off. I mean, I don't know about you, Anthony, but I'm happy to call that a big fat check in that box. We've got people to concede. A, there's no bulge in any of the pictures we show. And B, there absolutely unequivocally is a wall obstructing your view in the heliocentric spinning ball Earth model when you use the proof of nothing, begging the question, perspective omitting, standard model of Earth.
But it goes worse than that. The final stage is relative to the hidden value. Now, we haven't even got to that yet, but when we do get to that, because we've rammed home the third point about the bulge, when we start applying the hidden and we start dropping in that curve that's supposed to be there, remember that the wall of water, the bulge, is only 5 or 6% of the distance to the target that we're looking at. That curve starts dropping from that bulge. So wherever the bulge is supposed to be, and wherever we clearly see it not, from that point, it starts going down, and it gets worse and exponential all the time. So then it starts taking off relative to the bulge, and that's when it really goes wrong for them as well, because once we've pointed out that the bulge is not there, and that's the obstruction that's a mile away, 1.2 miles away, then when we start applying the hidden value, i.e. the curve, then we see that that curve isn't going to put these things where we clearly see them. It's going to put them significantly below, and we can't see through water. So when we get to the hidden value, you guys are so badly get damned, it's unbelievable. But you'll never accept it because you don't want to realize that we don't live on a sphere. It's ridiculous.
I'm quite happy though, because at this point, step 1, everybody watching now knows the calculator omits perspective. Everybody knows it. Everybody watching it now knows that things getting smaller into the distance is something that we all take into account when we take a picture, video, anything, or look at anything. So that they all understand that implicitly. So when we apply what we're on now on this show, the bulge in the foreground, massive because it's close, then you've got something tiny being obscured by something big. Last but not least, which is what we'll move on to probably on the next show, which I'm surprised about. I didn't think we'd be moving on. I thought we'd argue about this indefinitely, but we've had Flat Earth Math and one other ball, and now concede this, and that's good enough for me. You know, I'm happy. It's a fact. There is a wall in the way. No one's ever going to be able to challenge me on that. In their model, in their bullshit world of ball, you've got a wall in the way. No, try and challenge me on it. You can't. That's why you've conceded. So now it's time to face the fact that that tiny object that's hidden by a wall is also dropping away from you on your sphere Earth. Very bad news, because that means it's all gone. We should never see anything ever. It should all be obscured by a wall. It should all be tiny in the distance like it is, because we see it, because it's on a flat plane. But it should also be dropping away from you towards the drop value, and tiny, and blocked by a wall. So yeah, this is going to be the coup de grace, moving on to the next thing, which is going to be the drop. But I'm happy to revel in the bulge for a little bit longer on this show. We've got half an hour left to talk about no bulge.
We revel in the bulge.
But there's one little fallback position that they still could apply, and it's not going to help really, and that is looming. It's ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. They have no proof that it could work, especially because it has to be fractal looming with all the other refraction, compacted view, all of that stuff happening simultaneously. But yeah, that's the only way they could account for the missing of the bulge, and that is the R-based standard refraction bending it around it.
Yeah, that's why Charles
So,
came in.
yeah, then they have to actually work that out.
Well, that's why Charles came in to get to concede. You can't see any bulge, but look, he kept saying, "Oh, there's a bit of miraging there, then bit of miraging," because as soon as he can say that, they can blag. What you see here is a mirage. No, we just see land. We see it clear as day. And you want to claim that the whole thing's a hologram because it's blocked by Earth curve. No, we see land. We zoom on it. It's there day after day. Ranty's been proving it time and time again. It's not changing. It might compress as you get lower if you've got a clear enough day to see it. But ultimately speaking, it's always there. It's not a fractal looming hologram. It's not being blocked by a wall. It's not anything other than there. And anyone with eyes to see who's not indoctrinated into this bull religion would just look at it and see it's there. They wouldn't for one moment think there's a wall in the way that you can't see. It's behind a curve and is being lifted up to the horizon at 1.2 miles to sit perfectly in proportion as a fractal looming hologram. That's the kind of stuff of bonkers nutcases, but that's what the general public actually believes when a weatherman says what you see here is a mirage. That's effectively what he's saying.
This takes us back to Rumpus. Why am I getting feedback? That was weird.
That was weird.
This takes us back to Rumpus because do you remember when Sly Sparkane said, "Go back to the beach, Riley, get it from the beach"? And I went back to the beach, got it from the beach, and he pretended he couldn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Rumpus made the claim that he would also come back and explain why it was that we could see it from the beach. And obviously, there's supposed to be a big wall of water between us and it. And he hasn't done it. He hasn't come back and done it. But this now brings that right back in tow again because his claim is that he can explain it on a spheroid Earth. Well, if that's the case, Rumpus, we need to see that explanation because there's supposed to be a big, massive wall, and that's before we even apply the drop. So what's going on? Why is there not a wall in what we see? Is it not perhaps the case that the Earth is actually flat, or certainly not a sphere the size that you guys are telling us it is? You've got to at least accept that it's not a sphere the size that you guys are telling us. You don't have to admit that it's flat, but it's definitely not a sphere.
Yeah, not necessarily slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena. It could also be a prismatic fractal looming chameleon.
It probably has to be, since we discovered all of these other refracting effects at the horizon point, at the convergence point. This has to be included in their looming system. So it has to be a very complicated way to refract it around the curve, around the curvature, and still cause all of these other effects as well. Very weird optical effect.
You're on red pill.
Can you see what I'm showing there, guys?
Yes, you're on.
Ooh. Autographic ball.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask real quick. So, hold up. Let me get this here. So basically, this right here is some dude standing on the ball. And this is a lighthouse or something in the distance, whatever you want to call it, some building. Now, I drew a line directly from his eye level to nip the surface, the bulge, and then I do it straight so it connects to the building. But then I also drew a sort of perpendicular, not like line of sight straight out, as if he didn't have to turn his head up or down. If he was just looking straight, this would be the line. This would be the straight line straight out from his head like that. And this is I'm kind of new to this guy, so maybe you can fill me in. But is this why they always have to point the camera down in the calculators? Does that have anything to do with that? Like,
yes.
Nah, I think
you can never see anything at the horizon looking straight ahead.
You're always on the top of the ball. So from your position, everything is always falling away from you. So you're on the top. So if everything's falling away, you must tip your camera down in the sphere Earth model in order to see the horizon. I mean, we're talking half of 1 degree.
Right. So this basically goes back to my discovery of the bulge, and that is the only real way you can find it is if you angle your head down a little bit more, and then if you look very carefully between your legs, there's it. There's the bulge.
Come on, Owen. I knew where that was going a couple of seconds before you got there.
Sorry.
But it's weird
Owen's
because
official stance on the bulge.
It's the only it's the only place you can find it.
So I don't know if you can see what's on screen now, but this is, you know, quite a good representation of what you would be if you're on the far left hand side. You're looking out, everything's falling away from you, but between, hopefully I can catch it before it moves on screen. So between this point and my mouse, this point. So from here, there's a tangent line that you would draw. So there's a tangent line that you would draw, and obviously this bulge is the wall that would be between you and the target here. Obviously this is scaled up massively, but this is actually a scale earth that Chris gave me with this, so I specifically asked for these mountains to be drawn in this way for demonstration purposes. But yeah, so you're on the top of the ball, you're looking down, but between you, if you draw a straight line and get a tangent to the target, the bulge is an obstruction. It's a wall between you and the target. Simple as that. How you doing, Paula? Can you hear us? Hello? Is that really you, Paula? Oh, here we go. So Paula's got her screen on now. You can probably see this on screen for the audience. If you click on Knowledge Scavengers
Hello?
face. Hello!
Yeah, I didn't know if you could share my screen.
You are.
Hello?
You are sharing, yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, the bulge is a wall. It is as simple as that.
Sorry, I got an echo. Hold on. Sorry. I forgot to mute my watch page.
Common mistake.
It's a bit like the common mistake that ballers make when they apply the orthographic and the absolute target heights. Leaving your watch page open is the same.
Easy mistake to make, but ultimately it is the error of the user.
Every single baller user. And flat earthers, we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
We've all been misled.
Yeah, we've applied the calculator wrong as flat earthers. What do you know? We've applied the ball earth maths that's infallible incorrectly because the calculator doesn't account for perspective. Our bad. It's a shame it's not our calculator trying to prove our earth with a fallacy.
She seems to have muted herself accidentally.
I think she's figuring out whatever she's figuring out. She'll be back with this. I'll take her off screen.
Right, what it is, she's muted herself and now she can't hear, so she's not got the settings set up inside the Hangouts right for the right set of speakers.
Ah, she's on Linux, so I would imagine it's generally a bit of a nightmare.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us? Oh, apparently she can't hear us.
But it's all good. We should got a nice bulge on screen.
Well, this is strange. I can only hear if I have the watch page on and it's delayed. So I'll just not talk. I just wanted to show that picture.
Or if
you can talk. We all hear you.
We will all
or
be
you
quiet.
could try headphones.
We will all be quiet, and if you want the mic for maybe 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, Paula, and then hopefully no one will talk over you with delay and horribleness. But if we all shut up and leave a 10-second pause, you can then start hopefully once the delay's over.
Okay, like I said, this is really strange. If I mute the watch page, I can't hear anyone at all. But so now I have the watch page on, and it takes like 5-10 seconds for me to hear you guys. But anyway, I just drew this real quick, and I got to mute the watch page again. Sorry, because I'm hearing myself. There we go. Yeah, I just drew that up real quick. It's a simple. People don't understand what we mean by bulge. I'm watching the chat. And there it is. That's the green part there, that it's the difference between looking straight at something that's a certain distance away that should be hidden by curvature on that yellowish line, and the difference between that and a tangent. A tangent just touches a circle. If you put a ruler on top of a ball, that's a tangent line. And so if you look straight, you normally don't look at the ground. You're looking straight when you see the horizon. So that's a tangent line. But if you see something that's supposed to be, by calculation, hidden by the curve, That's the bulge we're talking about. And that yellow line represents what they think is hiding the object. That's the bulge we're talking about. And that, by definition, is the horizon, but only if you're looking at your feet. It's crazy because of the way ballers keep changing definitions. They're like, where is this bulge? And we're saying, you're telling us there's a bulge that's hiding the object, that gray building there, that box. And okay, so that's what you mean by it being hidden by the curvature, is that green area. But you have us looking down through the ground at this building, is why we can't see it. And yet, according to that distance, it should be hidden, and yet it's not. And yet at the same time, we have this tangent line, which is really looking off into space, but that's what we see when we see the horizon. That's as far as we can see, and things kind of meld into that. But I just wanted to draw this to try to show where the confusion is, what we mean by a bulge. That's really all I had to say. So I'm just going to mute now if I can just find my cursor. Everything is crazy. But all right, thanks.
Pleasure. That was awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, good presentation, Paula. Thanks.
What it needed. I was doing a terrible job with drawing lines on, screenshot pictures that were in the background with my mouse shaking. But, that was brilliant. Thank you very much for doing that.
The other thing
the drawing is almost as good as the red pill one.
Yeah. The other thing is the guy that was arguing with us yesterday was drawing that bulge in, and he wasn't getting that the bulge, the crest of the bulge, the way he draws it, is 50% of the distance between you and the target. But on the curve calculator, the crest of the bulge is only 1.2 miles away because the horizon is the bulge on their model. It is. There's no two ways getting around it. It is the bulge on their model. So are you telling me that the horizon is only 1.2 miles away? Of course not. You can see that with any normal sane person can see that that's not the case. It's crazy that people think that we live on a ball but basically the Metabunk curve calculator proves that we don't live on a ball.
Well, that just requires that they have to extend the scale, because that's what the dissonance was earlier when he denied that the horizon was a mile away. He would say no, but he has to, because his scale requires that the horizon is actually farther because of how massive the Earth is.
Nathan, if you want to present my screen,
sure.
I should then be able to comply with your request.
So while Sleeping Warrior's doing that, Anthony explained, so I'll explain secondhand. He's on the panel, so it's not like I'm doing this third hand. I'm just doing it as filler while he gets his screen queued. Had a conversation with Jaren about a recent piece of flat Earth evidence involving sunsets and mountains, so without stealing Anthony's thunder too much. But in essence, Jaren, from what I gleaned the conversation went like, was saying that this is sensational flat Earth evidence. Not just good as it gets. And a few people have mirrored his video, which is all well and good, but it's something that really needs to be discussed. So I don't know if you're ready, Anthony, or not.
Yeah. I mean, on my screen sharing now.
Perfect. Yes, you are. So
what's happened with Jaren here is that he's found what he considers to be a strong proof, but nobody else has supported it. And it's the same thing with us with the perspective point that until there gets momentum, the reality is it's just Jaren's observation, and something that he thinks is strong. But at the end of the day, when you put the values into this curve calculator that we're supposed to live on, it destroys the ball model so badly that the Ranty observation that we've just been talking about at 18, 20 miles away, this pushes the limits so far that the context and the scale that we're talking about here, the only one conclusion that you can come to, unless you're an utter moron, is that we live on a flat plane, and the obstruction that we see is to do with the atmosphere and the way that the photograph or video is recorded. That's it.
Exactly. Wow, this is really amazing.
So this is right. So this is where I need to pause it. So Canigou Mountain, right? He was at 10,000 feet, I think. I don't know. We'll go with the figures that he puts in. So the eye height's 1,000 feet above water, and the actual distance is 175 miles.
Wow.
So at this distance, right, we have, I think he's already clicked it. The hidden height is meant to be higher than the height of Mount Canigou itself. In other words, the whole thing should be behind the curve of the Earth, even at this height. Now, when we just seen that paint picture there with the tangent line, and I said that the guy yesterday was arguing that the bulge is like halfway between us and the target, and on the curve calcs it only shows it at 1.2 miles or whatever. It's like 1/7 of the distance. Well, the whole mountain should be behind the curve of the Earth. So the Canigou point is absolutely pushing Ranty's video to the extreme, because basically it's 175 miles away. None of it should be seen, and it doesn't matter whether we can see down to the beach or not because it's a silhouette, but you can see the whole mountain range on screen. So whatever it is that we're looking at here, unless you're going to push the idea that this is being loomed up from behind the curve of the Earth, we're seeing the mountain. Now, any hologram or mirage, whatever, is not going to be opaque. We are going to see that sun through it. So because the sun's setting behind it and it is being obstructed by the thing in the foreground, in other words, the mountain that we shouldn't see, this means that it has to be real. This is not fake. This is not a mirage. It's not an illusion. We're looking at the mountains because they're physically there, in the same way that we saw the lighthouse at Isle of Man because it's there, in the same way that we can see Ranty's buildings because they're there. This isn't a loomed up representation of a...
Well, unless the sun is simultaneously part of the looming effect. So it makes fractal looming even more complicated.
Well,
Right.
the point is...
Well, that's their argument. I mean, just to back up Arwin. So what Arwin's doing now is he's putting forward the baller's argument, which is exactly that. They're saying that what you're seeing here is a mirage. It's an effective mirage. And when you get into the nitty-gritty detail of what you see on the point of convergence, on the horizon, this is what Ranty's dealing with. He's explaining the actual cause of the obstruction, and we're backing it up with visual evidence to suggest what we are explaining and how it works with visual evidence. However, when you get an observation like this, it's not like we can zoom in on the horizon and see how much it narrows at this distance, but you can work it out. You can calculate how slim an angle you will have to reduce the height overall of what looks like the shoreline meeting the mountain, i.e. in their world, there's a little bit missing off the bottom, even though in reality you've got to take into account what we are discussing right now, which is when Jeren did this and you saw the curve calculator, we're back to the same point we're making right here, right now. The curve calculators do not account for perspective. And even with that being the case, using a perspective omitting proof of nothing, begging the question fallacious calculator, it still says these mountains are long gone behind the curve of the Earth without perspective. So factor in perspective, factor in a bulge that's blocking your view. You know, it should be game over. Everyone should recognise what we are seeing here.
It's not just the bulge that we have to factor in. We then have to factor in that curve that's supposed to be there behind the bulge, because the bulge is only like a couple of miles away from the observer, according to the spherical Earth maths that the geometry dictates must be there. But every point thereafter, every mile thereafter, it's dropping behind that bulge, and that wall of water or the wall of whatever is the curve. But clearly there is no curve there, because if there was a curve, the whole mountain should be behind it, even at this height. So why is it we can see it? Are you really going to all basically argue what you see here is a mirage? Because if you are, we're all going to laugh at you, because a mirage is not opaque. A mirage is a light lens thing that is translucent. We should get the sun shining through it, but clearly the sun is being obstructed because there is a mountain in front of it.
Well, we will have those arguments.
That does seem to be the more logical conclusion, at least.
We just see it because it's there, but we will have the intellectual ballers come on, like Charles, because he tried to obfuscate our tying down of what type of refraction we're dealing with, and he just didn't label it, because they need slightly looming non-standard refraction to come to the hyena with observations like this. They need it to be a mirage. And when you have people like Nick Noel in the comments, he will absolutely assert that it is a hologram. You know, he will say this is being obscured because he understands how the geometry works. Therefore, it must be a hologram. Therefore, it must be a mirage. Therefore, it must be looming up to the horizon that when you're at 1.5 feet off the water is at 1.5 miles. This is what they're saying. It's nicely dropping as reducing in angular size and being obscured by something 1.5 miles into the distance that's got a considerably larger angular size. Then the entire thing is being lifted up proportionately, other than a mirage on the bottom edge, to sit perfectly on that 1.5 miles horizon. It's such a shit show, it is untrue. We are in the Ball Earth circus, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. This is Fantasyland. You can either believe all of that stuff that someone like Nick or Charles or whoever looks at it goes through the maths and then decides that yes, what we are seeing here is a mirage. It is being blocked by a wall that we don't see. It is being brought up from a curve that we don't see to sit on the 1.5 mile horizon. They will absolutely assert it. And when they do, we should be rational, normal people and laugh our asses off because it's ludicrous. What we see is just land. We just see land. We see it because it's there. The lighthouse is there, and all the hologram fantasists on the ball side can assert all day that, well, we know it's not there because something is in the way that we don't see, and it's dropped behind the curve of the Earth. Therefore, it is, yeah, of course it's a mirage. And they say it with a straight face. It's ridiculous. We just see this stuff because the Earth's flat.
But we can push it even further, though, because we can show people what a mirage really looks like the hologram, slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena. We've all seen the 2-pack hologram. You know, the guy that's meant to be dead, that probably is dead, but might not be dead, but we don't really know. And they can recreate 2-pack on stage with a hologram, but it's translucent, right? We can see through it. If you shine a light through the other side, it will come through because it's not a real artifact. It's not got tangibility. It's not really there. So if anybody wants to know what a hologram really looks like, go and type in the 2-pack hologram. You can see it. Is that comparable to something physical that's literally mountains in the background? And the answer, of course, is
not
no.
the same type of hologram. It's not a looming effect, really. But yeah, the whole thing is becoming so convoluted.
No, it's not becoming convoluted.
The thing is that the ball is basically being bent into visually a flat plane.
When it's not being convoluted. It's just being obfuscated. There's a difference. They're obfuscating it because they don't accept that anything can be anything other than what they say it is.
No, but hold on. The actual looming effects that we can identify, like in the circle of confusion at the compression zone, the looming effects there are not transparent by nature because it's a different type of effect. It is caused by atmospheric conditions. It's not a projection being created artificially, an image projected close by like this hologram system. So that's not entirely the same, but still it is so complex and so convoluted that you have to imagine that just normal optics could bend all of that ball into a flat plane. It is absolutely ridiculous, and Occam's razor applies. Absolutely. You see it because it's there. It's very simple.
Just to let you know, Nathan, you're not actually sharing my screen at the moment. You're asking for mountains, but it's not going through.
Look at knowledge screen. Knowledge screen is still working on the bulge.
I had a question, by the way, about that footage. How is the mountain range there in that amazing footage? Has it been identified?
Yeah, they know what mountain range it is. The amount of obstruction, according to the spherical Earth, is greater, significantly greater, than the height of the mountain itself.
What is the height of the mountain?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. But what I do know is that the point of the video that Jaron was making is when he put these curve calcs in, this height that comes in down here at 12,000 feet is is greater than the total height of Mount Canigou. So if you just type in Mount Canigou,
I get that, but I'm kind of curious to the height of the mountain and then comparing the angular size. So
Jose's trying to tell you.
Basically draw a line where the bottom.
Jose's trying to tell you.
Because that would be fascinating to figure out.
Well, Mount Canigou has got an elevation of 2,700 meters, so 2,467. So it's going to be about 7,500 feet. But on the video that he's citing from, it's 12,000 feet. So the whole mountain and some should be behind the curve of the Earth, and it clearly is not. So basically, it's either looming beyond all the parameters of the refraction that they claim. Basically, Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light says that light travels in straight lines. It does not bend. They all say that Snell's law applies, and it bends following the shape of the Earth plus a little bit. But it doesn't. Light travels in straight lines according to Fermat, and it deviates from straight by a negligible amount. Snell's law doesn't even apply because there's no change in medium. Now, they claim there's an isotropic change in medium, but soundly showed that light bends up as well as down. It doesn't always bend down. 50% of the time it bends up. So basically, light's straight. Light does not bend. So why are we seeing what we see if it's a hologram?
Don't trust your senses, Anthony. What you see here is not here.
175 miles.
Praise the maths.
Right.
Hold on, go ahead.
Just
Jose.
to add to
that mountain is 175 miles away.
Right. So I would
175
like to know the
That's
height of the
ridiculous.
lower parts as well, because I'm just really curious if you can figure out the exact angular sizes of all of these parts, then you could calculate angular size related where the actual sea level bottom should be, because yeah, that would be really interesting to figure out where is the actual midpoint there.
Right, so you see my screen, Arwin, yeah?
Yeah, this curve calculator, right?
No, it's
Oh, okay.
conversion from 2,700 meters into feet, and it's 9,100 feet, basically. Now, on the video, 9,100 feet, it claims that the feet is 12,000 feet. So it's the whole of the mountain should be behind the curve, plus another 3,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
3,000 feet is a lot.
I know. Now this is another point I'm trying to bring up, because I'm just really curious. Where is the actual horizon? Like, where is it really? What in the picture? What we're seeing? Not assuming the globe, which is absolutely undone in this. I'm just really curious. Where is the horizon actually there?
Well, the horizon is going to be somewhere close to where it appears. It's not going to be precise. We don't know the exact horizon because the horizon is an apparent horizon. It is close to, but Rumpus claims that, well, it's close enough. Well, when you zoomed in that much over that distance, it's not. That's a huge variation, and you can't calculate the radius of the Earth based on a guess. And that's what he demands that we do, and that's nonsense.
No, but no radius involved. I'm just wanting to figure out where is the horizon, assuming a flat plane right there.
Sure, you're trying to figure out where the convergence point is. I mean,
Because is it really where you see the dark line hitting the more lit up parts above there, or is it like slightly above that?
I don't know.
Is it below it? Where is the actual horizon if you figure out where the bottom should be of those mountains using their angular sizes, basically?
Well,
I think it's fair to say,
Riley, who did you say posted this video?
well, this is originally from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, Ditrar, but it originally came from Jaren. So basically, Ditrar's mirrored Jaren's clip from Jaren's Hangout. And because it is the only video that you need, if you can see this mountain and the whole thing should be behind a wall of water over 160 odd miles, whatever it was, then really what more do you need? It's 175 miles and we're not seeing any curvature, because if it was curvature, none of the mountain would be visible. So what seems to be happening is we accept that we can see the mountain, but we somehow think that it's spherical. No, it doesn't conform with the spherical maths. The geometry is important. For anybody that thinks that we live in a sphere, apply the maths to it and then explain why it is possible that we can see the whole mountain range, not just Canigou, the whole mountain range from 175 miles, and none of it should be seen.
Absolutely correct. However, I will just add one small detail just to round out this show, because it's the point we're making currently. Now, that is based on a perspective omitting, proof of nothing, begging the question curve calculator. So even based on their best shot of having it conform to what we see, their best shot isn't good enough. It's still long gone based on geometry alone, not including perspective. If you were to apply perspective to this, it's the same as virtually every single picture. You've got a wall in the way. There's something that's reduced in angular size, and it's dropped away from you behind that wall on a curve. So in the heliocentric model, you've got a complete shambles. It shouldn't be seen. But just begging the question and omitting perspective alone means that you, with your best chance, still don't have this mountain visible. This is Flat Earth Proof 101. You see stuff into the distance because we live on a flat plane.
Yep. Straight line of sight.
Any globe defender is welcome back tomorrow to tell us where the wall of water, aka Bosch, is. Thank you.
Well, maybe not, because we're going to move on to step 4. So I'll summarise that again as well. So, we've got a big checkbox. They don't include perspective in their calculations. Also, objects do get smaller as they get further away from you. Perspective is a real thing. Targets do get smaller into the distance. We also have something that's close in the near foreground, an obstruction called a bulge, which again, by virtue of perspective, is considerably larger in your field of view than the things that you are targeting behind it, which shouldn't be seen. Finally, and this is what we're going to follow up with, and it's the coup de grace, because it's an absolute killer. If the bulge alone should be obscuring stuff on a flat plane, imagine what happens when you engineer in the drop. and that's what we'll be doing on these following up shows. Is there anybody else that wants to add anything? Got Chris on, my biggest ever guest I've ever had in the entire history of my being on YouTube. So thanks to Red Pill Philosophy for being here.
Yeah, sorry, man. I'm just kind of sitting back and taking it all in. So,
hey, Nathan.
Hey. Anybody else want to add anything before we finish?
Yeah. Let's not move on to point 4 until we get concessions from point 3, because otherwise point 3 will get lost. And I think it's really important that they accept it. And I think we should. Let's pass the mic to our friend that's trying to speak, so she can basically let's everyone be quiet for 20 seconds while she gets in. Give her the mic and let her say what she wants to say, because she obviously can't hear us. So you now have the mic.
Okay. If you could share my screen, I just wanted to say something about lenses and optics. I think it's on screen. Yeah. That's a diverging lens. I've done a video on that. And what's going on here is that light will bend to the thickest part of a change of density. So when people say it bends up or it bends down, that really isn't accurate, because it bends to wherever the thickest part of the change is, and it has to be a change. If you're looking underwater at something else that's underwater, that's not a change of density, even though it's much denser than the air. You're looking at something in the water. But if you look through the water up to something above it, that's a severe change of density. That's why things are so hard to pinpoint. And so you have to have a change, and the light will go to wherever it's thickest. You can see in this diverging lens, it's a double concave. And this is what I think is between the sun and the earth, by the way, but I've done a video on that. But the principal axis right in the middle, you aren't going to see distortion. It's going to be accurate. So it matters where you're looking, and we're in a lens, basically, the atmosphere at least, possibly magnetic distortion. If you're in the middle looking straight through it, you're not going to see distortion. But if you're at any angle looking through this thing, you're going to see it bend pretty far, depending on how far you are from the center. So this issue of what should be visible depends on how you understand focal length and change of density and how light behaves in that. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. So other than I went back to my drawing and added one line, which is this red line, which is more accurate than the yellow line when it comes to what we're looking at. If we're on the surface right here, we're trying to see the top of something, whether it's visible at all. And this bulge is still there, but it's a matter of how tall this object is and how far along that arc it is, whether you're going to see it. So I guess that's all I have. Thanks.
And with that, I'll say first and foremost, well, actually, I'll plug Knowledge Scavenger's channel, because it is an excellent channel, and it deals a lot with biblical information, but a close analysis from a very, very wise head. So if you're into your biblical material and you want to see some analytics being done on the Bible, then you can check out Knowledge Scavenger. But her Flat Earth material, which I think is fantastic, is worth a subscription alone. So she's got a whole bunch of very underviewed, underappreciated videos on Flat Earth, which are very akin to what you have just seen from Paula right now. So check out Knowledge Scavenger's YouTube channel, and yeah, you'll enjoy some excellent Flat Earth material, and I'm sure you'll learn some stuff about biblical information while you're there as well. So I will say a first and foremost huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated this show, how on earth you could do that, I don't know, but if you did, you know exactly what to do. But if you liked the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!